Hey everybody, in today's episode we are going to talk about Bristol Motor Speedway. We're going to talk about who got eliminated in the round of 16. We're going to talk about part failures, all of that fun stuff that happened on Saturday night, so I hope you guys enjoy the show. All right, guys, NASCAR Nolan here. We have lots to talk about, but before we dive into it, if you guys haven't already, please hit the subscribe button if you enjoy this content. If you like listening to me talk about NASCAR, that would be greatly appreciated. Also, make sure you like, comment, all of that fun stuff because we have a ton to talk about, all right? So before we dive into my analysis of what happened at Bristol Motor Speedway and my thoughts on the part failures and the round of 16 and who's going on to the round of 12, all of that exciting stuff, I want to share with you guys a little bit of a recap of what happened at Bristol Motor Speedway to paint the picture of how we ended up with the 4 drivers that got eliminated and what exactly happened to them at basically on Saturday night. So for starters, Ryan Blaney ended up getting a loose wheel, and the team, for some reason, wasn't able to fix it immediately. Not 100% sure what happened. I'll be honest with you. I was hanging out with some friends while watching the race. It was a great time, so I wasn't able to hear the commentators because obviously we were hanging out, and when everything was going on, everybody was being really loud because you saw Ryan Blaney's car just kind of bouncing up and down. So I'm not 100% sure what happened. I know that Ryan Blaney went back out on the racetrack. He ended up finishing 30th, and to be 100% honest with you, if it wasn't for all the other things that happened at Bristol Motor Speedway, if you're a Ryan Blaney fan, and if it wasn't for everything that happened, you would have probably been sweating on whether or not Ryan Blaney was going to make it into the round of 12. Thankfully, he did, spoiler alert, but it definitely came at the price of being super stressed out. After Ryan Blaney had his flat tire, loose wheel, all that fun stuff, Austin Cindric also had issues too. He had a tire go down. Later on in the race as well, he was involved in an accident with Eric Almirola and Harrison Burton. You can check it out right here. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's just kind of a chain effect, which ended up spinning around Harrison Burton. Brad Keselowski won stage 1, which is super exciting for him and his team. Obviously, they had an amazing showing at Bristol Motor Speedway. It was Brad Keselowski's first stage win of the season with the number 6. Again, remember, he was with Penske last year in the number 2. He decided to take on an ownership opportunity within Roush Fenway Racing, and now it's Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. That's a tongue twister. We all know that already. Really exciting to see him up front leading laps, and we have more to talk about with that team later on. Bubba and Ty Gibbs have power steering issues. Both of their Toyotas all of a sudden have issues. They had to go into the pits. They were able to get them fixed for the most part, but by the time you're on pit road at Bristol Motor Speedway, it's such a short racetrack. It really is. So any type of pit work that you need to get done, it's going to come at a price of being multiple laps down. Along with their Toyota counterparts, Martin Truex Jr. has power steering issues as well. It puts him out of the race. Unfortunately, Martin Truex Jr. done for the day. What a frustrating season for him. That's the second time in the round of 16 for Martin Truex Jr. He is not a playoff driver, but still super frustrating for him because he's had fast cars, but he doesn't have the results to show for it, and it's because of mechanical issues. Nothing in his control, and that just kick a man while he's down, right? Christopher Bell is your stage 2 winner. Highs and lows for Toyota, right? Now you've got 3 cars that just had issues, but yet your other car that's been running extremely well is now the winner of stage 2, which is great for Christopher Bell. He is extremely impressive in the round of 16. He was the only guy that actually was locked into the round of 12, and he was actually the person who I picked to win the race in the previous video. So it's really cool to see a newer face running so well in the playoffs. During stage 2, Kyle Busch blows up. It's the second time that he's blown up. It's every single race in the round of 16 where he's had some form of an issue. He spun out at Kansas. He blew an engine at Darlington. And now at Bristol, smoke started coming out of the tailpipes. He is done. He unfortunately ends up getting eliminated, which is super sad, man. Like, you got 15 years with Joe Gibbs. You got 15 years with M&M's, and you're going to go out on the first round of the playoffs. What an absolute heartbreaking story for Kyle Busch and that team, because I know that they wanted to make a run for a 3rd championship, but it is not going to happen this year with Joe Gibbs Racing and M&M's. Daniel Suarez ends up getting loose hits Ricky Stenhouse Jr., ends up collecting a couple of drivers. Some of those drivers are Tyler Reddick and Austin Dillon, which ironically, those guys also got eliminated, and Daniel Suarez was on the outside looking in until that situation happened. If you remember in the first stage, Daniel Suarez's car literally was bouncing up and down, just bouncing up and down. It was a horrible handling car. They were able to get it a little bit better. He ended up finishing 19th, but it's kind of ironic the fact that the wreck that he caused helped him advance into the round of 12 and eliminated two of the drivers that were unfortunately involved in that wreck. Brad Keselowski in the final stage, he ends up getting a flat tire. Here's a little bit of controversy for you guys, and I want to know in the comments down below, what are your thoughts here? So Brad Keselowski, you see right here, he ends up getting a flat tire. No caution is called whatsoever. All right. Christopher Bell later on, probably like 20, 30 laps. I don't know the exact lap number, but it was fairly close between the two. Christopher Bell has this issue, and NASCAR calls a caution. And I really was confused on that. And it goes back to the conversations that a lot of people have with NASCAR and their level of consistency. But watching the race and seeing that, I was really confused. Maybe I missed something. And if I did, let me know. But I really felt like Brad Keselowski, what happened with him was a little more dramatic and was more in line with calling a caution than what happened with Christopher Bell. Let me know. Between Brad Keselowski having a flat tire and Christopher Bell having issues, Kevin Harvick was running in the top 10. It's the final pit stop of the race. Unfortunately, when Kevin Harvick goes to take off, they realize that the wheel is not on. It falls off. He backs up. They're able to, obviously keep him moving forward, but it was enough to where he wasn't able to contend for the win, which eventually led to our fourth driver getting eliminated. That really sucks for Kevin Harvick. And man, like that pit crew is really good. They really are. But how heartbreaking is it on like the last stop? You have an issue and it basically mitigates the opportunity to go to victory lane. Was Kevin Harvick able to win the race at Bristol? I personally don't think he could have. It just seemed like Chris Buescher and Chase Elliott, those guys just had better cars. Hindsight's 2020, or shoulda, woulda, coulda. I guess is that kind of what we're looking at here, because it basically took him out of contention, which essentially led to him being eliminated. Chris Buescher wins. A Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing takes victory lane at Bristol Motor Speedway, especially at Brad Keselowski's expense, right? He ends up getting a flat tire after winning stage 1, and in the finals, stage 3, we're in the final stage, he blows a tire, but hey, Chris Buescher came in and saved the day for the organization, led a ton of laps, and honestly, that's great to see for Chris Buescher. He breaks a 222 race win streak. That is the second longest in the sport's history. That's amazing to see. It's great to see Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing on the up and up when you compare their first half of the season. The second half of the season has been really great for the team. You're seeing Brad Keselowski run up in the top 20, top 15. You've seen Chris Buescher run for a couple of wins, more specifically Sonoma. That's the one that stands out to me, but I do know that there were a couple of other times where Chris Buescher was running in the top 5. He has been stellar in the 17 car, obviously given the circumstances. You've got new ownership. You've got a team that has basically never bounced back from when Roush Fenway Racing was on top with like Matt Kenseth, Carl Edwards, Greg Biffle, all of those guys. It's never been the same. So to see those guys competing for the lead, leading laps, taking home a trophy is excellent to see. Now, one really cool thing that Brad Keselowski said in his post-race interview was that the goal is to have 4 cars, but the goal is also make sure that both of the cars that they're currently running are relevant, a third car is relevant, and then they'll get the 4, which will be absolutely amazing to see. I'll be 100% honest with you. It's really cool to see some of the teams that maybe have scaled back over the past 10, 15 years. They are now adding again. Look at Richard Childress Racing. Racing. Once upon a time, they were running with Kevin Harvick, Clint Bowyer, Casey Mears, Paul Menard. Not sure the lineup off the top of my head if they were all running around the same time, but I know for sure RCR was a 3, maybe even 4-car team. If somebody wants to fact check me on that, I'm totally okay with that. The reason why I'm kind of sounding not sure is I don't want to speak on it on fact, and I just haven't looked it up, to be 100% honest with you. But regardless, it's cool to see these teams expanding. So obviously there are some things that the next gen and NASCAR are doing right because people are investing in their race teams again, which is really exciting. So now let's talk about the round of 16 and who got eliminated. Obviously, we know who it is. It's Tyler Reddick, Austin Dillon, Kyle Busch, and Kevin Harvick. Now, everybody and their mother had at least Austin Dillon out of the round of 16. Austin Cindric also, and Chase Briscoe. I am guilty of that. I had those 3 guys plus Alex Bowman getting eliminated in the round of 16. Other drivers that I saw other people saying that were going to get eliminated in the round of 16 was drivers like Daniel Suarez, William Byron. Those are the other names that I really saw that were being name dropped in regards to who's not going to make it to the next round. Totally wrong. I never would have thought that Kevin Harvick wouldn't have made it through the round of 16. I never would have thought Kyle Busch wouldn't have made it through the round of 16. And same thing for Tyler Reddick as well. Wasn't expecting it. I was expecting him to go on to the round of 8, to be honest with you. I had Kevin Harvick going on to the round of 8, and I had Kyle Busch going through the round of 12. He hasn't been as hot as what he has been over the past couple of years, so I didn't want to obviously overshoot my prediction with Kyle Busch. But regardless, our brackets just absolutely got obliterated. Everybody's did. You got to be. You did not. Nobody predicted this. I'll be honest with you. Let's talk about a couple of things. Aftermath of Bristol Motor Speedway. Some of the conversations that are coming up. Part failures. That is something that has been a topic of the next gen car. Is it a NASCAR thing or is it a team manufacturer thing? You're seeing the same teams are having issues. Joe Gibbs Racing, they're having issues. We saw that during the race at Bristol, the 4 Fords that had flat tires, well, all right, just kidding. There were like 6 Fords, but the majority of the Fords were Penske cars. You had Harrison Burton, Ryan Blaney, Austin Cindric, Joey Logano. All those guys had some form of an issue, right? Brad Keselowski had some form of an issue. I'm trying to think who else had an issue. There was one more that I really can't think of off the top of my head. But regardless, you're not seeing Chevrolets having the same type of issues. So you got to ask yourself, is it a NASCAR thing or is it these manufacturers trying to get every little bit out of these parts to perform during the playoffs, whether or not it's the guys who are trying to advance or if it's the teams that are just experimenting? Because remember, we only have 20 minutes of practice. We don't have a lot of time to experiment on a lot of these cars. So, hey, if your guys are out of the playoffs, why not try and do something to see if that's going to help for the next season? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think this is a NASCAR issue or do you think it's going to be a manufacturer issue? I want to talk about the round of 16 as a whole real quick. I wish it was more results driven versus attrition driven, right? You're talking about like Kyle Busch, who finished literally in the 30s for 2 of the 3 races and in the mid 20s at Kansas. And he was 2 points below the cut line. That was it. I guess my thing is I would have seen it more based off of the driver's ability to manage the 3 tracks rather than issues at hand that have been caused by forces outside of the driver's control. Look at Kevin Harvick. If his car didn't catch on fire at Darlington, you think he would have been eliminated? I know he hit the wall at Kansas, and that's a little bit self-infliction, but at the same time, you really should have only 1 mulligan in each round, and the mulligan was used up at Darlington, which was something completely out of Kevin Harvick's control. Put a loose wheel on top of it. That's what caused him to get eliminated, but it sucks because it's not like, man, Chase Briscoe and Austin Cindric, they like outraced Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch. Like, they really didn't. They just basically advanced because of everything that happened with those teams. And the blown engines, the fires, etc., etc. That's my only beef with the round of 16. And guess what? It's going to happen in the round of 12. Texas, you can't pass. Talladega, it's crazy. It's basically playing Russian roulette with a bunch of race cars. And then you've got Charlotte Roval, which just naturally is just a chaotic road course because it's Charlotte Roval, right? We've seen many races there. It's crazy. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. I'm really hoping that the round of 8 is going to be more, we're talking about the drivers and their finishing positions rather than the drivers and the issues that they had during the races, whether it's stuff that's outside of their control. I know I already said that before, but that's just my specific thoughts on the round of 16. Regardless, want to call out a couple of drivers in a good way, because I have been critical of them in the past or even in the round of 16. Chase Elliott redeemed himself, in my opinion, finishing second at Bristol. He finished 11th at Kansas. He wrecked at Darlington. I expected Chase Elliott to go through and just wipe the floor on the round of 16, round of 12, round of 8, and onward into the round of 4. Did not see that out of him. I criticized him for it. However, I liked what I saw with the Chase Elliott crew. Finishing second, is he going to get his mojo back in the round of 12, or is it going to be kind of a wishy-washy round for him? But I want to give credit where it's due. I also want to give credit to Ross Chastain. Fairly quiet this round. Going into the playoffs, a lot of people were like, is Ross Chastain going to wreck people? Are people going to wreck Ross Chastain for everything that happened this past season? Fairly quiet. The only thing I guess that you could bring up is him and Bubba racing at Kansas in front of Kevin Harvick when Kevin Harvick's car hit the wall. But other than that, a fairly quiet round of 16 for Ross Chastain. Hey, and let's talk about Christopher Bell. Raise your hand if you had him as a championship favorite after the round of 16. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't, but he was the only guy that was locked into the round of 12, which is crazy in my opinion. Wow, did not expect it. Collected a ton of stage points, competed for the wins. He ran well at every single racetrack, and he looks to be the championship favorite right now. Let's see what happens with the round of 12. Will Toyota get some of their parts issues, all the other stuff figured out? Who knows? Will be interesting to see how Christopher Bell moves on into the playoffs. So now we have Austin Cindric, Suarez, Alex Bowman, Chase Briscoe. They're at the bottom of the playoffs now where you can see that. We're going to talk about who is going to get eliminated in the round of 12 in the next video where we talk about Texas Motor Speedway. So if you've made it this far, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. Hopefully, if you have already, we've gone from literally 50 subscribers to 70 subscribers over the past, week and a half, 2 weeks, which is excellent to see. So I appreciate the love. Seriously, remember, go fast, turn left. Again, let me know in the comments down below on all the topics that we discussed. You guys agree with me? You guys disagree with me? I want to hear it.